Hey guys, this is Perks, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel.
Okay, one thing I want to ask about, by the way, is right. This is obviously going to be a little bit tricky as a topic. So this is how I would frame it. Right, I would actually say I'll use the example, obviously, that famously got him into trouble with you and that whole fucking Twitter drama where Amazing was like about you like grooming players or whatever. Right, obviously, a problem with that whole topic, if people don't know, is that Americans seem to only exclusively use the term grooming. Unfortunately, when it's to do with like interfering with kids, whereas like actually in Europe, that's like a very famous thing that people just say, like grooming your successor, like grooming like a group of people. So like there's nothing as weird about it. It's just taken as a concept of like you just take care of them and you help them, etc. Right. The question essentially is though, like, why is that a part of Ellis's life? Like, it's not just that you've like identified players that could be good or been friends with players or had them in your group. You actively have like tried to be sort of a mentor figure to these people. And one thing I wondered, listen, if this is obviously if I'm pushing the boat out too far, just let me know. We can read it back in. But I wondered myself when I think of your background coming from America, you left your family behind, you're on your own, you had to grind up. I get the vibe that some of what you're doing is you are sort of creating a little family or a little group of people around you. It's not just about the game, right?
No, yeah, it's not just about the game. I mean, I'm doing for a lot of others what I wish I had in my early days in Korea and StarCraft. Which is also why I never negatively viewed toxic people or cheaters the same way that other people did, is because the question always is why did they cheat or why are they toxic? But no one ever cares about what the why. They just care about that they did it, right?
Yes.
And obviously we know from psychotherapy and psychology and all these other types of things about, you know, how adolescents or teenagers or even adults who commit certain crimes or abuse, likely it stems from something that happened, you know, like something that happened in the past. The why has always really mattered to me. And because no one ever really asked me why, and I felt like I never had anyone ask me why, I always tried to keep the why open unless I felt like I was dealing with someone who was doing it out of malicious intent. And there's not too many people in esports that I've run into that I thought were operating with malicious intent. I mean, they do exist. Sometimes it's just stupidity. And what I mean by that is like streamers and players and stuff like that, right? I'm not talking about some of like the staff, right?
Of course.
I'm not referencing that. I'm referencing like the peer circle and everything, right? So as long as it's not like that, then yeah, I'll try to be helpful. And that was one of the things that, you know, I was, I guess, at one point known for in Korea, right? I was a bridge for Western players that wanted to boot camp. In a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's something that I always wish that I could have had when I came here. And when I was trying to be a pro player and I never had it. Like right now, I mean, there's two people living here, you know, with me right now. Because it's like easier, right? After BBQ blew up, I literally took in the whole team, the Korean players. Some of them had like bad home lives and other stuff. One of them actually was homeless. It's not even like he had a bad home life. He didn't have a home life because of, well, I guess bad home life, but you know what I mean. He didn't even have the option to go back somewhere. Yeah, I mean, I've maintained that stance. I think I've grown a bit more resentful towards it in recent years, because what started happening for me is it started feeling very quickly like almost most relationships that I had were transactional. And that once I started getting more popular, that more people wanted to associate with me on that basis alone. And it felt like so many conversations or not conversations, but so many relationships started really, really boiling down to I'm LS or I have money.
This is something I want to segue into. I have a question about this. So basically, here's the question, LS. Another part, look, obviously some of this is speculation. I'm coming from my own perspective here. So you'll let me know if you disagree, whatever. And one reason, this might sound weird, I think we have a shared quality. One reason why I actually really liked Korean culture when I went there was actually that whole thing of like the dongsang, the fucking young angle of like you're the older brother, they're the younger brother. And they all run on that dynamic throughout all male relationships, basically, right? And the reason why I actually thought that was really interesting was because I've noticed, because I'm quite an intense person, I feel like that's actually the only level on which I can actually have relationships with other people. They're basically either my bigger brother. So I'll give you an example. I'll actually give people a little bit of insight for a moment. If people don't know, if you ever watch shows with me and Richard, he's the bigger brother to me in that scenario. He's actually older than me, and he's just a guy where he's a bit more worldly than I am, a bit more of a naive nerd, you know. So in that scenario, he sort of takes care of me, believe it or not. But the difference is, if I was with you or with Loco or something like that, I would see them as my younger brother. That's why I try to be myself more the mentor figure, right, in that regard. First of all, I get the vibe like maybe you've had a similar connection, because I notice when you become friends with these people, they're not just your friends, you become super close with them. They're almost like at your hip for like that period. But I notice as a result, another thing you're getting the response of, dude, it's happened to me in this sense, is if I have that relationship with someone, but they don't know it, they just think we're like mates, like casual friends, or there's a business relationship. Sometimes they might just think, oh, we're just not friends anymore, I'm just going to move on. But I'll feel like super betrayed. Like, what the fuck? My brother just turned his back on me. Like, I feel like you're having a similar thing, because without going into the specifics, we don't want to flame them, but there's certain people in your life the last few years where they've sort of turned against you now. They've sort of distanced themselves, or they've come out against you. And I got the feeling that you felt very betrayed by that, right?
It's very hurtful. Yes. I don't know what, I don't know. I think also maybe some problems with certain things. Like, have you ever seen me interact with my grandmother?
I've heard you on the stream.
Clips?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can joke with my grandmother. I think, like, I've read a lot of comments that like people wish that they could talk with their family members the way that me and my grandmother can talk, right? I mean, I will literally just say like, you know, you fucking bitch, like on the call, and she'll get upset, but you know, a minute will pass and everything's normal again, right? And we'll troll each other, and we'll curse at each other. And my grandmother and me have the type of relationship where we could explode at one another, and the next day we're still family. At the end of it. And I don't have that with many family members. I have it with my grandmother, and I have it with like my stepmother. But I think people can, I don't know. I think that some relationships that I have had, there was some stuff that it was very weird in the end, what ended up happening. And it sucks in some ways, but yes, I think that you're right. It's very hurtful. That I guess, yes, I think I may have just viewed it differently than they did, and it feels very weird. And that also fucks with me even to this day. Where
I'm sure it makes you question future relationships, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does, and it makes me cut off, and it makes me colder almost, right, and more reserved. And then it's very difficult. It really is very difficult, and it sucks. And it's not even like the other party might be at fault and I'm not at fault, because there definitely are things I'm at fault at. I know that I'm at fault at, right? When I replay certain arguments or conversations or situations that ended up happening, that as time passes and I reflect on them, I feel genuinely very sorry about, right? Or that I wish I had just been in a better place, like mentally, like to react to like certain information or whatever was going on. And it sucks. It's something I talk about in therapy to this day, because obviously my interpersonal relationships are a cause of stress for me in most cases, right?
Sure.
Like even to this day, I think I don't know. I do not actually know how best to word this without pondering on it a lot. It sucks. It really sucks. I don't think this is a topic that I can talk on concisely, or I can't be very concise at, and I can't articulate it well. This is a topic that I would probably fumble my words for like an hour to try to really sift through my emotions. But there definitely are friendships that I've had falling outs with that I feel very bad about. And I feel like maybe if I did some things differently, maybe it turns out different. And then I ponder, maybe I could have done nothing. You know, maybe maybe it was inevitable. And that feels really bad. This is something I do deal with a lot to this day.
No, I can tell. Yeah.
But again,
clearly.
I mean, yeah, it's not like I'm not at fault at all, because I think that there's been many things that I've been at fault at and I'm very regretful for, and I feel very sorry about. But like, I think one of the things that you're like alluding to with like Richard and like this like relationship stuff, you've monitored my career and stuff. I think that there is a sense of loyalty that I have towards those who I'm very close to. Like Joe Marsh, right? I view Joe Marsh like a bigger brother / like dad-like figure thing, right? Because he's so good in so many areas that I'm just not. Like behind the scenes and with life, and Joe has like a very stable life, right? And there's the whole T1 stuff, and still to this day there's stuff behind the scenes that I have not even spoken about, that ended up happening at T1 that I hold a great deal of gratitude towards Joe for.
One day,
I
years from now,
like
I'll just say, if you're a fan, it'll have to be years from now, but years down the line, me and Elas will do another one of these.
When I'm a boomer.
We'll do all the info on the T1 and the Cloud9 story. Don't worry, we'll get it all. We'll get all of it. But it'll have to be years down the line, obviously. Of course.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Obviously, I don't want to end this interview without asking a little bit about the Cloud9 thing. So I will say, spoiler, it's probably going to be like 10 minutes. We're not going to do like an hour on it, and we're not going to get into all the gory details, and we're certainly not going to list a bunch of people and blame them and say all the things. But all I'll say is this. I have myself said a bunch of things on stream. People will know about this and on talk shows about this topic. I will say this. I want to give a few pieces of detail before we get into this. This is all I'll say. First of all, some of that came from sources I have in Cloud9, a number of different ones. Some of that came from other people in the scene, like, the rumours that get passed around by everyone. Some of it was speculation myself, knowing you, knowing some of the players. But I will say, at the time, all the previous times I've appeared on camera until about, I'd say, like a month ago, I actually hadn't talked to you about the topic. I hadn't talked about in-depth your side of it, what your perspective was. So I actually do have a different perspective now than I maybe said on stream there. Not entirely. I'd say, again, it's one of those ones where when you know multiple people in a scenario, they can both be right in different ways, or they can have a different perspective on how that is. So what I would say is this, to make it interesting as a question, what I would say is this: we can't go into the specifics as much, but the gist would be along the lines of, when you look back now, it sounds to me like some of the reasons you did the Cloud9 job were great. They sounded like the dream scenario, like get all the thing with Korea with the visa, get your spouse to America, have a job in America, get paid millions of dollars, coach the way you want it. It all sounds perfect. In fact, it sounded too good to be true, and unfortunately it sounds like it was. Like, it sounds like basically I don't think Cloud9 either did or could have fulfilled all the demands, which means actually the project itself was already, maybe it shouldn't have happened. And then secondly, then there were on the ground tons of things, it sounds like, in all the relationships that you never could predict, and that just blew up and went wrong in ways like no one going in wanted it to end the way it did, or even to go the way it did, right?
Right. So again, like, I'll maintain the same stance that I've always maintained, and that I will not I will not talk about it, but I will refute untruths, right? Or things that have like come out that are like the Sven stuff, right? Sven on Summoning Insight. It was very weird to me to read some of the comments or like people tweeting at me after that, especially like the highlight video that was made where he's saying actually a lot of good things about me, right?
Yeah.
The majority of that highlight video, it's actually mostly positive.
No, he seems like he fucks with you, by the way.
Yeah. So it's really odd. So I understand that English comprehension actually is a skill in itself, and especially for non-native English speakers, right? English comprehension, even in America, I'm sure in the UK, other, first language English speaking countries, etc. English comprehension is a real thing. You can have people read the same paragraph and they arrive at different answers. Well, like on the multiple choice tests, they literally read the same passage and then it asks you questions about that passage, and there's people that get that wrong. right? English comprehension's a real thing. So like when the Sven stuff came out, I was so it was so weird. The amount that of clinging to like negative things that people had about that. There's also people that seem to think that my tenure with Cloud9 was really only 2 weeks. It wasn't. It was 3 months. It was actually, technically it's over 3 months if you count all the stuff that I was doing before I officially joined, right? They're like, it's like people don't pause and critically think, and it's very odd, right? I was in Korea scrimming with the team. I was the mid laner and everything like that, and one of the things that I will talk about, and I talked about this on stream, right? Sven said that I had slammed desks, right? This was one of the things. And then people were like, oh, Ellis is unstable, and we can see this from his stream and stuff. And I said, no, I know what incident Sven is talking about. I can remember it very clearly what happened. And I'm very confident that this is what happened because I know that the recording of this exists because scrims are recorded, right? So what ended up happening is in the middle, we were, maybe 10 minutes into a game or something, and I had asked Autumn and Revan. I'd asked Revan a question about doing a certain part of the review, and then I had asked Autumn how many control wards Winsome had bought, and they both told me that they weren't paying attention. And then Autumn told me he wasn't explicitly told to do it that game, even though this has already been brought up in other conversations, right? That this is just something that we're doing until otherwise, like this is just how it's going to be until otherwise stated. It would just be expected that we do it. And so what ended up happening is the same way that I do on stream. I'm sitting at the coach desk, and then to my right, maybe 1 meter away or something like that, it's Sven, and then it's Max Waldo. And then on the main carpet in front of the television is Revan, and then it's Autumn. And what ends up happening is when they both tell me that they're effectively not paying attention, that, or like to do what I was asking anyway, like for review that upcoming game, right? I just, with my hand, my fingers all extended, I smack the fucking desk. And I go to stand up. Johnny Pilati is on the other end of the room. He's in like the connector to the kitchen. He's on the other end of the room. He turns around and looks like he's going to come into the room. And then Max waves his hand down. Like it's fine. Like it's not going to escalate, right? Like Max knows that my body language or from dealing with me, it's not going to escalate. And Max doesn't say anything. He just motions at it, right? And nothing. Nothing
by the way, just to be clear, the Pilati guy is the sort of like he's like the guy who's like the sports psych, like he's the team guy or something, right? Something like that. Oh, okay.
No. He's the team manager, and I believe that. Yeah, he's the team manager, and I believe that week Vincent Lewis, who is also one of the team managers, I believe that he was with the Halo team in Anaheim at that point.
Okay.
So I had slammed the desk the same way that I do on stream, right? The same way that you see so many streamers do it. And I was really like just frustrated because things like this were happening often. See if I say the word often, people are gonna have a different interpretation of what I mean often. I mean, like, it wasn't 100% smooth. That's all I'm saying, And I really care about like little critical things like this. So it's not like it's happening like multiple times a day or several times a day or it's happening all the. It's not what I mean. But it was happening enough, And so I smacked the desk and I stood up and I went over to where the bathroom would be behind Summit. And I put my hand, I just pressed against the wall and I looked at Summit. I just watched Summit's screen. But that was like after saying like, why aren't you doing that? And then Autumn got up and he went over to his computer and he just rewound the replay because it's a live game. He started counting it. That's what Zen's referring to. But literally in no instance did I ever like grab a desk and fucking like shake it or rock it or like pound on it with my foot. That never happened. But I do know the incident Zen's referring to. It happened once, right?
obviously, as I said in the preamble, and obviously I alluded to it, in the future when everything's clear, we can just do it all, tell all, and say whatever you want. And then, by the way, see them on the other side; they can do the same thing. I'm sure when all the fire's gone, we can all talk about whatever was going on. But obviously, we have to resolve this topic in the interview, Ellis. So essentially, what I would ask is this: just what are your reflections on having done the Cloud9 gig, or maybe if it's not just Cloud9 gig, coaching in general? It feels like that part of your career is done now because of this, right? That chapter is closed.
I feel like I will never subject myself to another experience like that, where I feel like I surrendered a lot of freedom over my own ability to do certain things inside of my career, and I hold a lot of regret over doing it, and I also even hold guilt. I feel like there were people that were counting on me to do certain things, and ultimately it wasn't possible in the end. And the other thing about it is the thing I've spoken actually a lot about on stream is I feel very regretful and also even guilty towards Nemesis. And I've said this many, many, many times. I was very angry and I was very hurt with Nemesis for a long time. Because what a lot of people might not realize is I considered Nemesis one of my closest friends in esports. I talked to him every single day for 2.5 years on Discord, right? The amount of time I spent with him, and even when he was on Fnatic, right? I think you might know about this behind the scenes, but I helped Fnatic at many conversations or VODs or whatever. Sometimes just totally free, whatever, because I was just trying to help him. And in kind, I know that I also benefited a lot from his help in many ways, right? Nemesis, I do think was a high enough level player that while I was casting LCK and he was always appearing on my stream and we're agreeing on so many different things.
He helped legitimize you.
Sees it.
Yeah.
Right. That we're both utilizing each other, and
Yes.
I knew about the stuff going on with him on Fnatic, and I had said to him come to Korea, come to Korea and boot camp and stream and everything. And I told him, you come here, I'll raid you, I'll host you, and everything else like that. And truth be told, the original plan was to have him also join T1 as a content creator. And then that wasn't something that was gonna go on, obviously, because they I already occupy the space, right? LCK co-streaming was only supposed to have one person per slot, per team, right? Each team had one person. So then what ended up happening is, I talked to Arnold and I got him to come out, or I got Arnold. Arnold was gonna hire Crowny and Nemesis, because both weren't gonna have a team, and we were gonna, do all that stuff. And so a lot of time passed with visas and other stuff, and he finally got here that year. And then shortly after he got here and we moved here, I actually left, and I went on that 6-week. I disappeared for 6 weeks. I wouldn't call it a break. I literally moved to a different city in Korea. I was so burnt out. I was dealing with probably, I mean, up until that point, at least, the worst mental health period of my life, right? And playoffs had all ended, right? And we're just waiting for Worlds. So I saw it as an opportunity to just step away. And he would message me, he'd check in on me and everything. And I was avoiding everyone. I would barely talk to anyone. So I had moved to Daejeon. I had just I'd gotten an apartment there and whatnot. And in October and November, this is when the first stuff started happening with C9. I was offered C9. This is all public before I joined, or shortly after joining C9. This wouldn't be anything I haven't said on stream before. After it was announced I was on C9, I was contacted during Worlds. October was the first contact, and I really wanted to do this with Nemesis because I was burnt out with co-streams and I was burnt out with streaming. And I felt like I was just getting so bitter and negative and resentful towards so many things. I just thought okay, this might be the best chance to get like-minded players together in one area. Let's like do this together. And he didn't want to do it. And at that point, I felt like in my mind, I had already made up the decision that I have to, because so many other people are counting on me, like Max and Fudge, right? And then if we go back to the like loyalty thing that we talked about before, like that like friendship, right, where it feels like family, it felt like there was more people that needed me or wanted me to do the C9 thing than not. And it just seemed like if I didn't do this opportunity, that would be it. Like it never probably would come up again. And so I took it, but I was livid with him and I was so mad. And I just felt, I don't know, I felt so fucking angry and just hurt and bitter. And I don't know, I never talked to him again after that. And I remember I had said something that was kind of nasty to someone that both him and I knew about him, where I just felt like, you know, I think I said something like, he's just an opportunist. You know, it felt like he literally just didn't care about me at all, or like the others, right? Because we had similar friends, and it just felt like the decision that he made was selfish, whereas in reality, I think he came out to Korea for me, right, to do the content and fucking do stuff together. And reflecting on it now, I was so caught up in my own downward spiral. And leaving Korea, I felt, now I see it as I shouldn't have left when he didn't want to leave too. And then I should have gone back and like done everything that he came out here to do. And I didn't. But I painted him in my mind negatively. And so that's one of the fallouts I feel very bad about. And it also makes me feel very bad that there's a lot of people that hold Nemesis in a negative light, whether it be because of his skill level or persona or something like that. That hurts me a lot too. That fucking sucks. It really sucks. Like I feel like others would make fun of, maybe even you would make fun of me, right? Where it almost sounds like another selfie situation, but Nemesis is literally, he's very, very insane as a player. And I feel like anyone who watches his stream should be able to see that. But much like with me, people can't put past the way that he might say things. And so they just disregard whatever skill and other stuff he might have. And it sucks. And then obviously there's arguments and there's other stuff that could have happened, but that's how the C9 stuff transpired, with like the build up and a fallout that happened with C9. And that's one of my, that's probably my biggest regret over the C9 thing. And I feel like it was, as someone that has been so cautious throughout my entire career and so risk averse and so planning and premeditated with career moves and decisions and, you know, my work ethic again and everything up until that point, I feel so stupid that everything went the way that it did. And
I've got a question for you. Here's the follow-up, right? The question is this, LS, because I think this will define what you think about that period. If you could go back in time, you get two choices. It depends where you want to go back in time to. Would you go back in time now to before you joined Cloud9 and just not join? Or would you go back to the moment when you got fired or told to leave and try and just tough it out and just make it work for a split? Which of the two would be better right now?
Oh, never doing it.
Right. I think that's a fair point. That's a fair conclusion to come to then. Okay.
I was already on the... It's not his fault, but really, I do really feel like I cast my vote to Joe Marsh. It's not his fault, but him and some other really close people to me were the final casting votes, right. Sort of. But And again, it's really not his fault. And then to Joe Marsh, like after everything happened, right? Joe Marsh was the one that was literally taking care of me in LA before I came back, after I came back, everything else. It just sucks, man. It really, it will, I think at this point, it will forever be my largest blunder. That's the only way that I can ever. I mean, there's a lot of good that did come out of it, right? I feel like I grow as a person. I reflect a lot on decisions that I made that led up to it. I reflect a lot on decisions that, what do I prioritize in my life, right? Why do I view certain things certain ways? What do I take for granted? Like, it made me appreciate streaming more. In its own weird way, it really did, right? It made me. I had a third wind for LOL, right? That's the way I would call it, right? It made me like LOL again, in its own way. So it's not like there's only negatives that came out of it. There's a lot of positives as well, but there's a lot of bittersweetness with it, right? Where I feel like there's so much growth that happens through reflection and through replaying scenarios that happened and decisions that I made and, behaviors that, I would have had prior to and after and whatnot. And, yeah, it's, but knowing everything that I know now in an interesting way, I would not repeat it in order to get to where I'm at right now. Which is kind of odd because like I've said that I would go through all the trials in the past that I have, right, to get to where I'm at right now. But I think like if I could go back in time with all the knowledge that I have right now, I would not. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't repeat the process.
Okay,
but again,
as I said, yeah, go on.
One of the things I always say, right? I always say this. I feel like I live by this. It's why I tried to always live in a glass house. Is that actions over a prolonged period of time is infinitely more honest than any words that someone can say. It's just how it is. And I feel like that rings deeply true in esports. Yeah, that's how I would end that part.
Obviously, as I alluded to, one day, it won't be tomorrow, but it'll be one day in the future. We'll do the juicy details and we'll get into all that jazz. But at the end of this particular interview, this episode of Reflections, do you have like a final message for people, or is there anyone you want to thank or say hello to?
God, I haven't done thanks in forever. God, I don't know. I feel thankful to everyone that has reached out to me when I did like take my break, right? These past 6-7 weeks. I'm very thankful to people who I gave many reasons to just, not talk to me again, like Sanchovies, right? Sanchovies was someone that I considered and still consider a really close friend, but him and I had a very bad fight, and Sanchovies has always messaged me almost he always showed up in times of need, always. And again, actions speak louder than words. And if I don't talk about this publicly or I don't talk about it on my stream, no one knows that he's doing that.
Yes.
Right. And does he have some ulterior motive where he's like, he's like, oh, of course LS will talk about this, right? So if I do this, it benefits me. And it's just not, like, no, that's not what's happening. But like, I mean, someone with very cynical outlooks could look at it like that. I'm very thankful for people like that. I'm very thankful for people that fucking continue to help me or be close to me or fucking tolerate me through a lot of my growing pains that I've had over the last couple of years. Because I've said this before in other videos that we've done. I'm no angel, right? And there's many things that I'm regretful of and I'm sorry of that have happened behind the scenes. And I'm very sorry that there's some things that have happened that maybe I could have prevented or stopped from happening that I wasn't able to for certain people or close people to me. I'm very
By the
thankful
way,
for, like,
it sounds
Joe
like
Marsh.
I'm being serious when I say this. Like, I know it sounds mad to interrupt on this, but I want to genuinely ask this. It sounds to me, based on what you're saying about some of the last few years and the stresses and all the different things you were thinking about and feeling betrayed, sounds to me like, as a general rule, if you're someone who was one of LS's boys for the last 3 or 4 years, you're really close. If for some reason he had an argument with you and hasn't talked to you in ages, if you reach out first and just say talk, he's almost certainly going to be open to it. It sounds like he actually wants to reconnect with these people, right?
I mean, I never. Well, this has been something that has always come back to bite me. I never fully believe in closed doors. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I always believe redemption is possible. And I've gotten into arguments with this, both on stream and off with people, right? That people are redeemable. And that people grow, people are exposed to certain situations and experiences that can give them new outlook. And I was a person that, I would say, the darkest periods of my life with, like, mental health, whether it showed through on stream or not, was probably around 2018 to, like, I want to say maybe early 2021, something like that. Was probably some of the darker, like, periods where I was going through, like, a lot, an identity crisis, and, like, just dealing with my emotions and getting older and dealing with all new responsibilities that I never had imagined before, right? Because of so much had changed in my life with, like, casting, streaming, and all these other responsibilities that I had never had up until that point. But I went through a lot of bullshit, and I fucking should have done many things a lot better. And it fucking sucks, man. It really sucks. It really sucks. And now I catch myself sometimes wanting to do or default to things that, you know, I came to know as habits, and like, just my immediate, like, the way that I'll respond to certain actions or stimuli or other things. And I find myself nowadays, especially because I'm trying so much harder now to be more mindful and cognizant of things, that I catch myself, and I just try to remind myself I have to make the conscious. I can choose to not do certain things, and I think it's helping now with, like, streaming and everything, and content creation, and trying to be better, just like IRL, right? With how I'm, like, taking, doing stuff on the daily, gym and eating and everything like that. I think it all comes full circle. But maybe this is just getting older, right? Maybe it's maybe this is what happens. Yeah. I don't know. The two people I feel the most sorry for, I mean, I've already said Nemesis, right? In this, I feel very bad about that. I should have done many things better, and I also feel very sorry for Max in a lot of ways. And I think that, like, the me and Max stuff is like, Max was, he lived with me for like 3 years. Now he's on C9, and a lot of people flame him and give him shit, and they shouldn't. And I always said, if not me, Max, right, on the coaching stuff. And people see, like, me flaming the drafts and all this other stuff, and people forget I used to do that even when I would have Max on my stream, right? When C9 was at Worlds, and, he was still coach on C9. I'd invite him to the stream and I'd flame the drafts, right? Max put up with a lot of shit with me, and Max would challenge me on many, many things, and he would always play devil's advocate on many, many things, and fucking dealt with a lot of stuff, and I feel very grateful for that. Matt, C9 has a lot of good people in it, and Max is definitely one of the, I believe, one of the best people in esports. And so, I don't know. I think my tweets maybe add fuel to the fire, like this past weekend, right? But, like, I do the same thing I do with I flame T1, right? Look at my relationship with Joe Marsh, and, like, I flame T1's drafts, right? Like, this isn't. It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I can't think of like a better way to end it. I don't know.
This video was kindly supported by Kill Your Inner Loser, Ahmed Hadju, Matt Pugnaccio Racula, Paul Villa, Travis Goff, Adam Oaks, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Hades, Jensen Gore, Kovacevic, Pacey, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Toucan, and as always, special thanks goes out to Jerky's Minion. Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my shows? Would you like to ask a question in my Patreon AMA? Maybe you want teasers, find out who the next Reflections guests are or upcoming talk show guests. Do you want to take part in one of those long donated discussions with me? Well, if any of the above or more sound interesting to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.